How's everybody doing? I am Leon. I make guitar noises, like I'm sure a lot of you like to, and this workshop is called Content Creation for Guitarists. Who knows what that means? Because I don't. I have absolutely no idea, so I'm going to be asking you all a lot of questions, and let me do a really, really quick survey here. Who's old enough to go to a pub and drink a beer? All right, so for the rest of you, who plays guitar? Awesome. Fantastic, fantastic. And for everybody who cannot go to a bar and buy a drink, and who plays guitar, I'm looking at you. You guys you're like right in the thicket of, I guess, what for me was a new thing. I just can't move this, which is content, right? It's just like stuff happens online and I know people, especially over the last kind of 18 months, would be very, very familiar with their entire lives being online. And even for me, I was born in 1988. It's still kind of a new thing to me that the internet, it's like this thing you go on and stuff's happening, right? But for the people who can't go and buy a beer in a pub and who play guitar, that's just life, hey? It's just, all right, so what's your favorite social media thing? Are you an Instagram guy, TikTok?
Or Snapchat.
Snapchat, awesome. What about over here? Instagram, awesome. And do you follow guitar players, or are you like me, you just like to look at photos of cats and dogs? Yeah, awesome. Who do you follow? Yeah, very, very cool. You're not going to escape, unfortunately. Favorite social media app? Instagram as well. I like Instagram as well because it's all the things that I like, which are mostly cats and photos of really nice guitars and coffee and all that kind of stuff. So basically what I want to talk about today is for anybody else who that is not their bread and butter, and you play guitar or you know somebody who plays guitar and you want to put stuff online, what should you do? And how can you, I guess, make it sustainable? And how can you make money out of it ultimately? Because getting paid to make guitar noises is pretty cool, one way or another, whether you do it every now and then or whether you do it all the time. So I'm, as you can see, very skilled at tuning my guitar and talking at the same time. So I'm going to tune my guitar, I'm going to play you something, and then we can talk some more. And we are live on YouTube at the moment as well. So everybody say hi, YouTube. Ready? Hi, YouTube! Fantastic. And hopefully everybody there is tuning in on this. And isn't it terrible to be in a total police state like North Korea where we can't do anything, you know? Don't read the American news. It's a big, big mistake. I'm going to play a song by my band, Ragdoll. So I'll do that. I'll get my fingers moving, and then I'll do what I do a lot, which is just talk. If you have questions, please let me know. I want this to be interactive as possible. This song's called Rust, and if you see a sound person screaming across the room to turn it down, and you don't want them to turn it down, you can either yell at me or yell at them. But this is Rust. Good thoughts, really fun. So I guess the first thing I really want to talk about is I'm someone who self-identifies as a guitar player and somebody who's played in bands basically since I was about 22 years old, so that's 11, 12 years now, and I've been playing with the same bunch of guys since then. I've been really, really fortunate, and we've done, I guess, kind of all the things, when I was your age, for example, where it was like, growing up and being a guitar player and liking rock music, it's like I want to record a song, at least one song in my life. That's a thing that I want to do. I want to go on a tour, whatever that is, whether it's playing an hour out of Perth. That would count as a tour to me. And we've been really fortunate where we've been able to travel to the United States a bunch of times. Europe, we toured in 2016, I think. So I'm still like Leon from that band Fractal. I'm just the guitar person who makes weird guitar faces. And what I kind of stumbled into was with the internet, if you're in a band, you have to have Facebook, you have to have Instagram, you have to have everything, which is why when you get a new platform, like, for example, something like TikTok, which I don't use, I'm officially too old for that. I tried it and I was like, I don't get it, I'm out. You see the way people experiment with making things for particular platforms. And it's almost like a social media platform's like an instrument, Like a 7-string guitar. Who's played a 7-string guitar here before? Who's played an 8-string guitar? Somebody in there's building a 10-string guitar. I really, really want to play it because I've never done that. But what one unintended consequence of like a guitar with an extra string is every human being is like a little creative scientist. When you watch a toddler pick up, those little like donut-shaped plastic rings that I couldn't tell you where you can buy one of those, but everyone who has kids, they have those things. It must be like you get something when you leave the hospital, like, and there's your little donut toy for when your kids too. You'll see them put their arm through something, and they try to pull it away. There's a classic example, and it's like, oh, hang on, this thing's got a hole and I can't pull it out, and they figure out that this new toy, like swing around and you can do a bunch of things that maybe it wasn't intended for, it wasn't made for, and social media platforms are a lot like that. And I feel like it's this constant uptake to just, try to be on the newest one. But for me, what I started doing in 2016, kind of stumbled into it, I bought this amazing unit called the Axe Effects. Because, again, we were touring a lot, and I needed to be able to show up to any venue like I did here, and I plug a single XLR cable in, and I have this guitar sound. And if I want more gain and I want more delay, sound comes from that little box. Alternatively, I could set up an entirely different rig. So this is an amazing piece of technology, and I wanted to know how to use it. And there wasn't a lot of videos on YouTube because YouTube is just my default. You know, I go there and it's like, I want to know how to cook a particular style of pasta. I want to know how to change a tire on my car. I want to know how to do these things. I'm just going to go on this incredibly convenient thing that everybody has on their phone that lets you do stuff. And I was trying to look up, you know, how can I use this particular box? And there wasn't a lot of videos about it. So what I did was I was reading things on forums and on websites and things like that. And more for my own kind of, oh, I need to remember this. What I started doing was I started making little videos from my computer where here's a Mac user here. So people look at you funny sometimes when you say that, but it's okay. There's a safe space for Mac users. Every Mac comes with QuickTime and it has a little screen capture function. And the Axe Effects and a lot of other modern pieces of guitar technology let you have software editors. So I could just make a video where I take a screen capture and it's like, oh, and Chris knows all about this because me and Chris sit down with this particular unit all the time. And it's one of the most common things, and it's like, can you tell me that again? Can you walk me through that again if I want to get that particular sound? So that was just me doing that. And you can still go and find these videos on YouTube if you look me up. They are terrible. It's sort of like, it's like this. This is what the experience is like. Literally, you can go watch the videos. I didn't know anything about how to equalize audio or how to have levels set up, but I think for a lot of the same reason, I found that people were watching these videos and they were easy to make. And I was kind of doing them from the perspective of, I mostly wanted to help myself out, and I quickly kind of cottoned on that nearly everybody uses that particular platform for the same reason. I want to know how to cook this particular pasta dish. I can't quite remember the recipe, or I got to, you know, it's Sunday and my tap is leaking. How do I fix it without calling a plumber? So that's kind of how I fell into what is now called content creation, right? Where you see it all the time, where it's the big thing, you know, people in the industry call it, which is influencer marketing. It's a huge, huge, huge thing. You go on Instagram and there's a really cute photo of a cat, and underneath it says, "You won't believe how fresh my cat's breath smells because of these," you know, and they tag somebody in there, and there's a little link, and a lot of advertising revenue now gets pumped into morons like me, which is like, I make loud guitar noises, I film it, and I think a lot of people figured out that's what people like to watch. And if you're a guitar player, you're used to making things, right? If you're a songwriter, or again, kind of like for me with social networks, they were like a necessary evil. Your band has to be on there because people use Facebook, they use Instagram, they want to know where you're playing, they want to know, you know, they want to know stuff. We're curious, again, we're little curious critters. And out of that kind of like necessary evil, what I found was, oh, this is actually exercising this creative muscle for me, where the typical process for me writing a song is, I'll be playing around on my guitar, I might come up with, you know, I'm sitting there auditioning a sound. And you have that moment like, oh, that's a cool chord. I'm going to do something with that. I want to write a song, and it might be years before anybody else gets to hear that idea. You know, you're lucky enough, like me, where I can get together with some other guys and throw ideas around, and you know, there's going to be some great workshops this entire weekend as well on people who are way better at writing songs than I will ever be in my life. Go to those workshops, and a lot of those tips, essentially, it's practice. You practice being creative. One of the best things I ever heard was someone saying, you know, if you want to catch fish, and you want to have a delicious fish that you caught, the first thing you have to do is you have to get up in the morning, you have to get your fishing rod, and you have to go down, and you actually have to cast a line. You might not catch any fish, but you're doing a whole lot better than the person who's still in bed at, you know, 11 in the afternoon, 11 in the morning. Sometimes the afternoon is not like me. So what I found, especially during the entire pandemic, was when you can't get together with people and you can't kind of exercise that creative muscle, you can do it by, you know, doing like, to me, the classic genre of YouTube is like, what would Metallica sound like with a clean guitar sound? And if you go and watch those videos, they're actually pretty interesting, and people do an amazing job with them. I won't try and do it because I won't do it justice, but there is this like depth that I would put to it where it comes to how long could somebody talk about a guitar sound that was popular in 1989? You would be amazed. And something like YouTube is a platform where it has a lot of engagement. Something like Snapchat, I mean, you use Snapchat just to chat to your mates, right? You're not really doing it to be like, oh guys, I mean, have you ever used it and be like, hey, here's a cool guitar riff, and send it to one of my buddies? Yeah, exactly, sometimes. What you could do with that, again, that's like a creative muscle that you're exercising. Where it's like, oh, this is something that I'm excited about. Surely somebody else is excited about this thing. And my long point about all of this is that if you can play an instrument, you can make content. That's my point. You just have to kind of find the other instrument, that like social instrument out there. So who's ever done a live stream before? Okay. Who's had to use Zoom in the last year? Yeah, everybody. You have all done live streams then, because that's what that is. That's streaming video and audio in real time, or relatively real time. Sometimes the latency is a bit. Who's had this experience? You go. That's a lot of the time the experience with something like that. But the reality is these kind of streaming apps and these things, they're just part of our lives now. Like it's almost like society and the economy wouldn't function without them. So yeah, if you use Zoom, you kind of know how to do a live stream, which I'm doing right now. I'm using my phone. The most incredibly low-tech solution to it. So all of my subscribers on YouTube just got an annoying little notification saying Leon Todd is live, and a small proportion of them are going to click on that, and I'm going to say hi to them all again. Say hi, YouTube. Yeah. So that's kind of my point there, and I'm gonna again. I've found a victim today. This is great. What's your name, mate? Ned. All right, Ned. We're mates now. I gotta hook you up with some music or something like that after this because you've been awesome. When you're watching me play guitar, like, and this is a thing that I was really self-aware of, that I'm even more self-aware of now, but I'm totally okay with it. Like, aside from the actual playing aspect, what's the thing that you notice?
The tuning, like what tuning you're playing.
Yeah. What do you think it is?
I don't know. It's the drop.
Yeah. It's very well picked up on. It's drop C. Yeah. But that's one thing that to me is, I use particular guitar tuning. So if you take a regular guitar and you tune it down a whole step, and then you tune your low string down even further, it sounds like, you know, in the Jurassic Park movie when the T-Rex kind of just bounds out of the realm for the third scene. It sounds terrifying. Like you can do that kind of thing with it, which I love, and that's purely a tuning that for my band we stumbled across because it suits our singer's vocal range really well. And if anybody has heard of or seen my band Ragdoll, our singer Ryan, he has an amazing range. And this is another thing as well. I'm going to talk about people in the comment section because there's a very dark side to all this kind of stuff. But often you get that, oh, that's a lazy thing to do. Ryan's an amazing singer. He has a great range. But like anybody else, singers have a sweet spot that they kind of operate in. And we just kind of found out that sweet spot was C minor. When you play a piano, that is like one of the most obvious keys to ever exist in. On the electric guitar and standard tuning, it's not so great. So there's one thing. And one thing that I realized is that's not an everyday thing, is it? It's like, oh, that's what tuning are you in? What tuning are you in? Somebody's probably left a comment on there like, oh, hey, I just stumbled across this string. What tuning are you in? So that's one thing that I realized, something I do every single day. It's not a very common thing. So it's for making things on YouTube. I try to do that as much as possible because it's a little bit different. The other thing is, if I'm playing a song, I played in my bedroom so much as a kid, and I would have DVDs on, or even VHS tapes with like the sound off, and you watch guitar players play. There's something really unsettling about somebody who, they play the best guitar solo you've ever heard, which this isn't going to be, but they just do this. warning to anybody who does that. That's if you can keep your face like that. There's something so tactile about the guitar that, I don't know, it taps into some primal urge where I can't play a guitar without going. I'm convinced that there's certain articulation that are just tied to. I mean, my wife has to put up with this 24 hours a day, where she might see me playing with headphones on, and it's just. That's something that, when I don't know, I just kind of discovered that there's this. For me, there's this like transparency, which I wasn't aware of, that when I play something I really, really like, I just lose control of my face. That's how I play guitar. My mouth moves, and it's, for me, it's something that's like become this kind of metric. I used to try to stop that natural urge to just really honestly enjoy something, where it's like, I'm enjoying this, but on camera, I'm having the best time of my life. We're doing stuff on YouTube, which is kind of like, oh, people actually kind of like that. And they have that similar reaction where it's like, a lot of the time when you see stuff online, you immediately go to that kind of defensive thing where it's like, this can't be genuine. No one would want to sit in their bedroom and play guitar and make those faces. No, they're genuine faces. So that's another thing for me. My whole point with all of this is that if you, Ned, and everybody else, if you do want to start putting your stuff up online and you want to be creative with it, do it for the right reasons. Because, like I was saying earlier, the whole like influencer marketing thing, it can seem really, really contrived. And you can kind of, I think Australians are particularly good at this, where it's like we're always like, I don't know if this person's for real. So that kind of, that's like in our blood, which is naturally a little bit suspicious. So if you are at any point going to do that, what I would recommend is do it for the right reasons. Don't do it because you want to have 1 million subscribers. Don't do it because you want to be able to like shield diet teas to people and get a little bit of cut of it. You can do all that sort of stuff and not have to pick up your guitar. Just go and get a rescue dog or a rescue cat. You know, do a good thing for the world, and then just take photos of that and put it online. And that's what people eat that up more than they will eat this up. So that's kind of the first. That's, I think, a lesson I haven't had to learn, but I've watched other people on various platforms who, you know, they start making videos because it's like, oh, I think this is the right thing to do to get people to watch my videos. I think what people want to watch is this, and they get wildly popular, and then they actually really don't like what they're doing. But when you start, you know, getting AdSense revenue from YouTube, which I'll talk about in a second, you start getting stuff. There's this, it's like, oh, I'm doing a job that I don't like, but it's paying the bills. So yeah, that would be my first little thing. Do it for the right reasons. And I'm really lucky on YouTube where the people who actually watch my videos and who subscribe, they're just kind of weirdos like me as well. You know, they're going to come and, why spend so much time watching things that you detest when you can just click on another video and find something you like, and then have YouTube be like, oh, you like that, you probably like this other video, you probably like this other video. That's my first little thing there. Just figure out why you want to do it. Figure out the platform that works best for you, whether it's, you know, Snapchat or Instagram or YouTube. And for me, it's always an opportunity to get slightly better at something. Whether it's video production, or whether it's audio production, or whether it's songwriting, or whether it's turning people onto the music I make, which doesn't have a massive audience in Australia, which was one of the reasons why, for us, we tried so hard to go and play overseas. It's a little bit hard to do that at the moment. And I'm really, really fortunate to sort of have that platform where you can go on and you can, again, do this. I'm just talk about myself. And, you know, if people want to listen to it, they can listen to it. If they want to go and check some guitars out in the other room, they can go and do that. So, yeah. You've all done a live stream. You can all make this mysterious thing called content, and you can do it for the right reason. And in general, I always kind of feel like everybody's going to have a unique take on something. You know, if Chris, if you got up and played this guitar, it would not sound like me. It would sound like you. And that's like the point. You know, that's the point of music. That's the point of why I'm also somebody who teaches guitar. I've been teaching for a long time. I feel like that's why writing music is one of the best things you can do to learn something, you know? And it's almost independent of how well you can, you know, operate a guitar. There's one thing that's playing a song and operating it, and there's another thing where it's actually really playing it and and exploring it. So,
Leon,
yes.
question.
Yes.
So it's okay putting a video up on social media, but then getting your audience.
Yes.
I mean, there's millions and millions of videos online, but you know, you've got to direct people to that video.
Yeah. So one thing that I personally like about content, I keep doing that. I'll stop doing the air quotes from now on. I know it's embarrassing. The process of like I was saying before, and this has been a very long tangent, to write a song and release it to a kind of professional standard is a pretty expensive exercise, both in terms of money and in terms of time. Picking on you again, Ed. What's your impression of if you had a song that you wanted to record it and you wanted to go into a studio, how much do you think you have to spend to do it? Would you even consider it?
Yeah, it's done.
It's done it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
$1,000 for the studio.
Yeah.
So it's worth it a month. It's got it forever.
Yeah, exactly. There's this, it's a quality versus quantity thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
You have your song. Well, you've got to chat more because I'm interested, very, very interested in that. You can put out a song, you can maybe put out an album once every 3 or 4 years now and expect people to listen to it and maybe buy it. That's a long arc for this creative muscle that I've been talking about. And it can be really, really frustrating. You know, I was talking to somebody this morning at the B&B we're staying at where they mentioned that they had lived in the UK in the early 80s and what sort of music you like. And immediately we were talking about Judas Priest and Saxon and all my favorite early heavy metal bands. And just that kind of, we were talking about that thing that he was saying, what's amazing now is I have Spotify. I just go and I can listen to all my favorite bands and it will suggest new bands. And Chinese Democracy came up by Guns N' Roses. Who's aware of that particular album? So it just, long story short, it took them a very, very long time to put out this particular album where they changed members and that kind of Chinese Democracy syndrome is pretty common when it comes to recording. And if anybody's ever tried to record something, you've probably tried to record a song and failed at it. And it's just sat there. And 25 years later, you might still be looking at it, remember that little song that we had or something like that? Or you might have done a demo of it or something like that. So again, that's a really, really long arc on this creative muscle. The creative muscles can kind of get desiccated and things like that. So one upside that I see to pushing yourself to do this, and this is getting back to your question, I promise, is to actually practice trying to do something creative every single day. And if you do that, and then you're confident enough, to film it and put it up on YouTube, that consistency, I think what people like to see is consistency. And I know a lot of my audience are people in the United States who I now time my videos so that they come out at breakfast for people. So when somebody's sitting down with their morning coffee, they're probably staring at their phone or they've got their smart TV on or something like that. And I always have this discussion with my dad where he'll sit in front of the news or even worse, the non-news, like Today Tonight. And he just sits there and he gets angry. And he goes, why do they do these stories? And I always make the point to him, I was like, these people are incredibly smart. My dad's a brilliant, really, really intelligent guy. They're so smart that they know that you rage watch stuff more than you enjoy stuff. So I've been trying to get him onto watching YouTube. So his latest thing has been watching Joe Bonamass's Zoom call thing. He's just discovered, he's like, oh my God, I can watch one of my favorite guitar players talk to all these other of my favorite guitar players. Why haven't I been doing this my entire life? So that, if my dad can do that, most other people have probably already been doing that for about a decade. So that's, the long story short, is being really consistent and just getting a good workflow, which is where something like music technology, I think, comes in. I'm using the FM9 from Fractal Audio, which is kind of how I got into, again, YouTube stuff. But if you want to be able to record yourself at home, for example, or you want to go into, one thing that we do with the band is we'll go into a studio and record drums, and then we'll do the rest of the stuff at home. So you can kind of spend more, you can allocate more of your budget. If you want to do an album, you kind of have to spend thousands of dollars. It's just what you've got to do. You want to get a good product, you pay the price. And often you're supporting people who do that. So one amazing thing is that music technology has been incredibly disruptive. It's harder to run a studio like that, so they might charge a little bit more. And then you can get something maybe for a few $100s, all the way up to something that costs, a few $1,000s, that is plug and play. If you want to do live streams, if you want to record YouTube videos, you can get something like this. It'll do all your effects, it'll do all your amps. It's an interface to your computer. So if you want to record yourself, you just plug a USB cable in and you're good to go. One upside to this competition, I guess, is that it's more competitive, but it's not like the standard has fallen. It's not like the knees are being chopped off people who actually know how to do anything. It's kind of, to me, it's almost raised the standard, where if you don't have any recording experience or any live stream experience, you can just kind of start doing it for no opportunity cost. You just do it. And the difference, I think, between the people who start to build a following and the people who don't have a following, the people who don't have a following just haven't started. So making that, if you're interested in it, I think probably the easiest thing to do would be, and I don't want to speak for Ned, but someone like Ned, if you're going to do your own music or you're going to be in that, you have to promote it somehow. Probably have to engage with the internet. So you're probably going to end up doing a lot of that work yourself. So it just becomes another string in the bow, for example. And I've been really fortunate where just by developing those things for myself, I've been able to do music videos for people. Well, admittedly, very basic music videos, like a live in the studio style thing, but that's something I never would have considered 2 or 3 years ago. Or, being able to have most of my roster of guitar students are from overseas now, so I use Zoom and I use YouTube, and I use this thing which again lets me flex a creative muscle and also can tie into the business that I run as well. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. And I got a royalty check from APRA, I think from whatever their last thing is. You put your music out, and I think it was, I couldn't buy a coffee in Margaret River for it. Put it that way. And I'm a nobody, so that probably tracks right. But one really weird kind of flow-on effect from that is this live video will probably earn me more in AdSense revenue than that song that took me 5 years of my life and again, it's probably a slightly different part. It's a different arc to that big, creative expression, but I'll probably never see the money back on that song. I'm totally cool with that. It was, it's something that I mostly do for myself, but there is this incredible opportunity for guitar players and for musicians. I just don't understand why some musicians are so averse to making money. I could never do, I can never do YouTube because don't they monetize the ads? I don't want to be responsible for that. A company wants to pay me to advertise on my channel. I could never do that. But, then at the same time, people sit in whinge mode, there's no money in songwriting or anything like that. So that's been the great upside for me, is it's basically a low-key fueled my continual addiction to guitars and the nice things that we all like to make. So yeah, I'm going to throw this open to questions. How are we on time as well? Oh yeah, yeah, fantastic. That's about as long as I wanted to talk to. Yes.
I just wanted to ask, what about in terms of copyright and losing your rights to songs and your own songs on YouTube or whatever?
Yes, it's a fantastic question. You probably, who follows Rick Beato on YouTube? Yeah. So if you want to know about the kind of copyright issues with things, and I think he runs into this a lot because he uses existing songs to teach people about how music works, and it's an amazing resource. And I love that he's championing bands like Steely Dan and Toto and bands that, or even pop songs that you might hear on the radio and you might not have known who played on it. So for me, if I play one of my own songs, I'm immediately protected by copyright, essentially by default. If the radio wants to play a song that I wrote, for whatever reason they would want to do that, they will have to pay out a royalty. What happens with YouTube is they've relatively cleaned up the system where they have an auto detect ID. So if I upload one of my own songs, it will actually come up and say, hey, there's a piece of copyrighted material in here. And some of the revenue from your video will go to the copyright holder. which, if I upload my own music, is me. So it just gets redirected straight back to me.
Is that based on chord progression, or is that what it's picking up, or?
I actually am not sure, but I imagine it's a very similar algorithmic thing to the way things like SoundHound work, and it's probably a machine learning thing, because sometimes I'll upload something they won't pick it up. I think they have a database of things that they can match. They can get qualitative data about a song and then match it to a database. But what that means is if the Eagles detect that you've played Hotel California, you know, there's a dark side of it. They're a band that basically don't want people, they don't hand out permission for their copyright very often. So a lot of the time, that's why a song will get blocked. You'll upload a song, AC/DC are another one. You know, if you put up an AC/DC song on YouTube, it will immediately be like, hey, this is blocked, unless you can prove otherwise. That because there's, again, something like YouTube, a lot of people use it to listen to music. There's kind of, without those things, and I feel like I'm protecting YouTube's copyright policy. It's complicated and it's flawed, but yeah, I guess it's kind of designed so that I can't just upload Back in Black and start earning ad revenue on it when anyone wants to listen to that. So yeah, that's a very question. Yes?
Just two questions I'm wondering about. You're obviously really enthusiastic about what you do and it gives you a creative outlet. You must go through ebbs and flows where you don't feel that so much. And how do you deal with that? And the other thing, the inevitable trolls that'll thumb down you. What do you do about that?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question, and it's actually, I think it was yesterday, who's familiar with the guitar player Tom Quayle? He's an amazing British guitar player, like one of the, I would like chart him up as probably one of the most influential modern players with the way he uses legato technique. And Tom's like one of the original people I used to watch on YouTube. My very vague understanding is there used to be a really active Dream Theater forum, because of course, if you love that style of music, and there were a bunch of players on there who started posting clips, and it's like old YouTube. You just use the camera in your Mac, you play, you put it up, and it was almost like there was this innocence about it. It was just like players egging one another on. And I saw up on his Instagram that he posted up that he basically hasn't been going online for the last couple of weeks or months because he just said his mental health's been not where it should be, you know, and he's been lacking confidence. And I'm really, really fortunate where for making videos for me, I have a permanent setup and I have a really straightforward workflow. A lot of the time, just plug this thing in, get that sound, and then talk about things that I like. So I tend to treat it like something where, the same way I would practice guitar, I'm going to sit down at the same time every single day. See you, mate. I'm going to sit down at the same time every single day, and I have my routine. But like anything else, I think there was this thing where I'm sure a lot of people who play, started the pandemic, we all have to stay home. I'm going to write 17 albums. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. And it turns out that like existing in a sense of existential dread is not good for being creative. Actually being relaxed and knowing you have a certain amount of time to work in and being able to have few distractions, for me anyway, is the way that I get to operate. So I purposefully go out and make that time. And that ties into like the troll thing as well, where sometimes you just have to not read the comments because I have a relatively thick skin and I'm fully aware that that's not the case for everybody else. My default reaction if someone walks up to me and says, "You suck," is just to laugh and say thank you. And like, "Have a nice day," which I often write back to people in the comments. And it's actually pretty surprising sometimes. People will come back and, you know, it'll be a month later and someone will come back and, you know, someone's been like, "This sucks, you do that, why do you do that?" And, you know, it's just like, "Hey mate, no worries, you know, walk on by, have a nice day." And they'll come back and say, "Hey, I apologize. I had like a really, really bad day at work and I shouldn't have done that. And I'm going to leave this up here just so that other people can see it." So I think the kind of discourse has changed a little bit on there. And I also moderate my comments as well. I make sure there's nothing that I wouldn't be okay with Ned reading or anybody else. So like my channel is a family-friendly place. Anybody who talks to me off stage or comes to a ragdoll show know that I like saying all the fruitful words in the Australian dialect of English that we all love. But I really do try to make an effort to moderate that, not because I'm censoring myself, I just don't want that to be a stick in the mud for anybody else who's not comfortable with that. So yeah, I also I run a Discord server as well. Who's aware of what Discord is? Yeah. So it's who's aware of what Slack is for work? So Discord is just Slack for getting really, really distracted. It's a lot more like the old MSN chat rooms or things like that. And what I discovered was a lot of people were using it. So, you know, if I do a video about, like a Q&A video, and I talk about my cat, you can't go on YouTube and post a photo of your cat and say, hey, Leon, this is awesome. But you can write a comment on there which is dogs are better than cats, you know? So there's this it's almost, I like to think that it's actually a feature, not a bug, that it's deliberate, that you can't do that, because the more comments you leave on a video, the more it gets suggested to people. So if people argue, it's better than people going, this is really, really nice, I agree, here's a photo of my cat or dog. Whereas you can do that on Discord. So the YouTube channel is linked to my Discord server, and I have 4 different people who like watching my videos, who actually volunteer and moderate the Discord as well. Which is a little bit harder on YouTube, but a lot of the discussion kind of gets moved over to there, which is awesome. And if anybody on my Discord server is watching, thank you, you're all legends. Excellent question, yeah. Anybody else? Yes?
I came in late, so apologies if you've covered this, but say because I do watch your stuff.
Oh, right.
And I had an early couple of versions of the Axe effects.
Yeah.
But, so say you're doing like, I don't know, like one-to-one to watch recently, you might machine a video or something, you know, a while ago. How much time, like prep time, shooting and editing goes into that for what might be, I don't know, what's it like a 15 or 20 video or something? Like how much sort of, because I hear about the Instagram guitarists who will, you know, what you're seeing is like take 27 or something, because everything needs to be perfect and all that. You know, how much real time are you putting into getting your
Yeah, it's a good question. Probably one I can't answer objectively, but Elspeth can, because she has to live with me while I'm doing it.
Some days are better than others.
Yeah.
Some days he gets it in 1 take, some days it takes 27 takes.
Yeah. And this kind of ties into your question as well. I try and do a video. When I finish, I'll play something which ties into this. Every Sunday, I have this video. I think because a lot of people who watch my stuff assume that all I want to do is just bash strings and play heavy metal, which I kind of do. But I started this series every Sunday, and I call it Sensitive Sundays, because I love David Gilmour and Nigel Knopfler and all these kind of guys who break your heart with a single note. So it's like, maybe I'll just play over some backing tracks and I'll do stuff that isn't super difficult for me anyway. And that question has come up a lot, like how many takes does this take? And I kind of give myself like a maximum of 10 for that. And literally if I'm not feeling it, then I'll move on and do something else. So it depends on like the level of, I think, research that goes into a video, because you bring up Mike Lushenko, who's like one of my favorite guitar players. He belongs in the conversation with Hendrix and Blackmore and all the, demigods of rock guitar. And something like that for me is like just really interesting, because I grew up with those songs. And if I want to go and, recreate 5 tracks, I have to go and listen to not only the guitar, I have to listen to the drums, I have to listen to the bass, I have to try and recreate all things. And then I have to try and recreate the sound. So again, it's actually a creative exercise in like mixing and critical listening, and it gets me away from thinking about notes on the guitar neck. And then I have to try to practice it and play it. So something like that would probably, again, I'm quite familiar with the material, but like if I have a good afternoon, I can do that. Otherwise, I'll do it in little half-hour chunks over about a week, and then at the end, I'll just kind of play it and bring it together. So yeah, that's a lesson I kind of learned the hard way, where you don't have to do everything in 1 take. And you don't have to do 27 takes to get that 1 take. You're allowed to press stop, and you're allowed to go, what I'll do is, another thing I do is a lot of product demos, where I love just plugging in and being like, wow, this sounds amazing. But if someone comes and watches something about the Axe effects, I can say it sounds amazing, and they can hear that it sounds amazing, but there's kind of like the why aspect of it that I'm really interested in. So again, I just try to make stuff that I think I would be interested in. So yeah, I do dedicate a few hours every day now. And the flip side again is because I've been able to get so much teaching work through that, I now have the most like normal hours for a musician. I get up in the morning and at like 9 to 12, I do all my online lessons with people in the States. It's their night time. So yeah, excellent question. Any others?
Have you used influencers to get people to follow you and find you?
Good.
As in musicians? Or
Yeah, good question. So one thing that I think works really, really well on YouTube, because guitar players all kind of like the same stuff no matter what style you play, is collaborating with people. And I was talking about those Sunday videos that I do. I chat to quite a few other people who do YouTube guitar stuff. You kind of just find each other, and it's where a medium like Instagram is really good, because you can just message somebody and say, oh, hey, I watched your video and it was awesome. What are you using? I get those messages a lot. And I'm interested in those questions, so I take the time. I'll sit down like once or twice a week and read through my Facebook page and read through my Instagram messages and just genuinely try to get back to people about that. But often what comes up is you say to somebody, oh dude, I love your video where you're playing that Toto song or something, and then they'll be like, oh, I love your video, and it's almost like, should we do a video together? And because most people who do that have a kind of setup. So one thing that I really like is that you can collaborate with other people, and those kind of opportunities that come up can be really, really great. Because you might, there's so much. It's like YouTube's dense. You know, there's still people I discover. I'm like, this person has 150,000 subscribers. I've never seen any of their videos, and they're like my favorite guitar player in the world. You know, so that kind of thing, the collaboration aspect of it. Again, when you play music kind of about collaborating with other human beings. It's this thing that we like to share together. So it's any opportunity that lets you do that. And yeah, I've seen some really cool collaborations where it's like, oh, I never would have thought that these two people would work together, and it just goes off. It's really, really cool. I've even seen it's come about where you know, particular people have ended up playing on one another's albums, or they started doing albums together. There's a great British guitar player called Jack Gardner. If anyone's not aware of Jack, ridiculous player, and he's just done this album. I think it's called like Shred Battle or Shred Wars or something, with this other guy I really like called Owain, who does kind of like synthwave guitar stuff. And yeah, their collaboration's amazing. It's like I like both of them, but then together it's just like kind of sweet spot. So yeah, especially now if you're looking to get into stuff, and it's just amazing that you could do an entire album with someone on the other side of the planet, you know, if you like the same stuff. So yeah, great question. Awesome. Any other ones? All right. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to play something totally different to what we started. If anyone has any questions or you see me around, just don't be shy. Come and say hi. Again, I'm Leon. You can check my band Ragdoll out. You can find my YouTube channel, Leon Todd. I'm on Instagram as well. Write to me if you've got any questions or anything like that. I'll do some sensitive Sundays on Saturday for you all. And one of my favorite bands who I found through YouTube called The Midnight. They're like a synthwave style band. And there's something that I think is really cool about modern music. They put all the stems for their albums up. So I paid for and downloaded all their individual instrumental stems. And they're just like the coolest backing tracks ever. So I'm going to play a little Midnight song, and you can all waltz out while you do that. I think this is it. All right. Cheers. You guys have been fantastic. Yeah. So that would be a good example of, you know, if I was filming that, I kind of get to the point where I'm like, this is, people have heard enough, and I could kind of pull that up. So, look, thank you all so much for coming along to the workshop, as much as it was a workshop, as opposed to me just talking about myself. If you've got any questions, like I said, we go and hang out in the main area and chat a little bit more, and I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. You're all legends. Thank you so much. Excellent.
I was like, stop it, but I don't know what.
Yeah.